Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode from God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. Woo, there we go. I love that. I gotta push that button again. Yeah. And we're thrilled you're here for this episode, and thank you for tuning in. And I am Paul John Hausleben of God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. I'm the chief cook, bottle washer, flagship author, chief photographer, do everything guy, with a little help from my friends here at God Bless the Cake Publishing, and we thank you for tuning in. And as of late, I received a number of emails, and they're very kind and very gentle, and I thank the listeners for the support. When we started this podcast a few months back, I guess it's a month or 6 weeks, whatever. I kind of said, well, my buddy's like, Paulie, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. And I had these audio and I have the soundboard, and I did a lot of audio work years ago, and it was an easy transition to resurrect that. And actually did a little stint on a radio station aside from my military radio and my ham radio background. I might resurrect that recording. We still have it. It was a one and done on a college radio station years ago. But at any rate, so we've had a great time, and I appreciate everybody's support. And we just reached a milestone in downloads. So that's something to cheer about, right, guys? Yeah, all right. Well, stay in the corner over there and just listen. I don't need any ruckus here. Actually, there's just a button on my soundboard, but that's full disclosure. But I know the Memorial Day podcast was a little emotional. I'm not going to lie. I got a little emotional myself, and not going to try to fudge that. And I did receive some very, very heartwarming emails, folks that really enjoyed it. And one gal said, Paulie, I was crying my eyes out by the end of the broadcast. I'm sorry. That was not my intention, really, really. I just wanted to convey the true meaning of the holiday and the honor and sacrifice. It holds a special place in my heart. So we're going to jolly it up a bit here and go back to our music review and our music ratings, and try not to get anybody teary-eyed here today. So I didn't even know if I would get this podcast in. I'm in Central Virginia here, and we just had the storm from like Hades come through here. It was like Armageddon, the Wizard of Oz. I was afraid the command center would pick up in the air and start spinning around. So I was like, I want to record this podcast, but I'm kind of leery of getting halfway through and having the power go fluey. But we have a little UPS here, but I'm not totally sure it would support all the equipment in the station. So we made it through that. It is now bright and sunny out, and it's as humid as a jungle. So that's a price you pay for it's summer. It's summer in Central Virginia. We've been lucky so far. It hasn't been hot and humid. But at any rate, before we get going here, get your little Orphan Annie decoder pins out, because it's time for a word from our proud sponsor. Yes, indeed. And this podcast is proudly sponsored by Corporate Facilities Group Incorporated, the leader in technical consulting, facility and property maintenance, management, repairs, and operations. If you have property or facility needs, look them up at www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. And we thank the kind folks at CFG Incorporated, Steve and Lydia. They're great folks, and we thank you for sponsoring our podcast. And for that, I'll allow you guys to cheer. Thank you. CFG Incorporated. So today's podcast, as I said, we'll jolly it up a bit, and we'll go back to our music reviews and ratings, and we are going to dwell into the world of the Electric Light Orchestra. Jeff Lynne, the musical genius, one of my musical heroes, and full disclosure, one of my favorite bands. And I guess we'll do one of podcasts on Paulie's top 5 bands. That might be of interest. But yeah, I would put ELO right up there. Certainly in the top 5, maybe number 2. Maybe number 2. And I just love Jeff Lynne. I think he has an epic career, not only as the leader and chief songwriter and frontman for ELO, but also his work with obviously the supergroup Traveling Wilburys, his production work, Tom Petty, George Harrison, Regina Spektor. I mentioned Regina Spektor would be one of the most obscure artists that I thought Jeff might want to work with, and he produced a number of songs on an album called Afar. And I can tell Jeff's production; he's an amazing producer, and it's really a great album. It's not really my genre or anything, but wonderful work. And Jeff's just a musical genius in everything he does, and he's been around absolutely forever. And I think that's how you judge an artist. You judge a writer, you judge a musical artist or a creator of any sort of art on not just one piece, but on the whole career. And Jeff's just amazing. He's been around forever. I remember back in my traveling days, I used to travel for my primary source of income. It was a mindless number of years, maybe 300 days a year on the road. And I remember traveling through LAX in Los Angeles, and Jeff lives in LA, and I was traveling through LAX, and I was coming into the airport, and I saw this ruckus going out, and I look over there, and it's Jeff Lynne. I was like, holy smokes, holy guacamole, there's Jeff Lynne. And I seen ELO in concert a number of times. I sat up close a couple times way back when, and there's Jeff right in front of me like he was. And the folks that did recognize him, he's creating a little ruckus and a little gathering, and he's got this beautiful young lady on his arm. Of course, he's Jeff Lynne, and I'm not. And he's got the teased up hair, and he's got the dark sunglasses, and the man never ages. And he's very kind, and he's signing autographs. And there was a limo out front waiting for him, and I'm not an autograph hound or something there, go over there and pull a piece of his hair out or something like that. But I did wave, and I said, hey, Jeff, and he looked up at me. I said, thanks for the music, man. You're the best. And he waved back and said, thank you. Very gracious man. And, so I passed through Los Angeles Airport next to Jeff Lynne. That's a claim to fame, right? At any rate, ELO comes out of Jeff Lynne and Roy Wood. Idle Race was a band they were involved in, and just from Birmingham, England. And then there was The Move, and Roy Wood and Jeff had this concept and this idea to incorporate strings and ascending and descending strings and electronic cellos and electronic violins and orchestra backgrounds, symphonic tendencies. And they wanted to create that kind of music. So The Move moved into what they called ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. And the first record, ELO 1, if you want to call it that, or just Electric Light Orchestra, actually the title is No Answer. And that comes because when they were trying to communicate to the record label, they kept getting no answer. The tape machines and the voicemails weren't picking up. So Jeff Lynne, he's got a great sense of humor, so it was called No Answer. That's technically the name of it. And being a photographer, I love the cover art for that first ELO record. It's a little tiny light bulb set on this polished hardwood floor in this big hall. I don't know what it's about. I guess electric light bulb, which was the first logo for ELO. And the photographer took a great picture, great approach to the subject on that one, and it's a great cover art. So Roy Wood was heavily involved in that and the writing of it and the production, and it's a good record. ELO finding themselves, a lot of strings, a lot of classical influences on there. And after that record, they moved on to ELO 2, which has a light bulb on the cover art floating in outer space. And Roy became a little disgruntled, not so much, I think, with Jeff, but with the record label and the executives, and they were promoting a lot of what Jeff was writing as opposed to Roy, and they had a little parting of ways there. And Roy left ELO to start his own idea and his own band, which I think was called Wizards, if I remember correctly. I do a lot of this just from a stream of consciousness. I don't have notes here so much. So there we go. A little background on the great Electric Light Orchestra, co-founders Roy Wood and Jeff Lynne. I remember when ELO went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they did invite Roy Wood, and I thought he was very gracious in appearing, even though yes, he was a co-founder, but certainly didn't appear on the majority of the music that was created. But he said to thank you, Jeff, for writing all those songs. And that about summarizes it, because Jeff Lynne pretty much wrote everything. So there we go. So we always go 5-1 on our ratings. I don't understand the magazines and the websites and the music critics that do 500 and 200 and 100 best of this and best of that, and they count down. I just think it's too confusing. I don't know the criteria to discern between 99 and 100 at that point. So when I wrote and I did my own blog and I wrote for websites, I always did 5-1, with 5 being really good, great, fantastic, but 1 being absolutely exceptional, out of this world. So here we go, 5-1, the best albums of ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. And I always stick in a little bit of honorary mentions. So my on-mentions have a little background to them too, which I find very interesting. So an on-mention goes to ELO on the third day. Once more, some folks just call it ELO 3. It's really technically on the third day. And I only elevate this to an on-mention because I think ELO 2 is better than ELO on the third day. Showdown, the cut on here, Showdown, is an absolutely exceptional ELO deep track that a lot of folks maybe overlook because it's in the early days of ELO. And it was featured quite often on TV and side pieces. It was a favorite song of John Lennon, who thought it should have been a #1 hit. He said the record label did not do that justice. They promoted the incorrect song. This should have been a #1 hit with the right push behind it. And I have to agree with that. And I know if you listen to my other podcasts or maybe read my writing, you might know that I'm not a Beatles fan. I'm just being honest. I'm not a fan of the Beatles. So folks find that interesting that I'm such an ELO fan, because a lot of folks say the Beatle influence is obviously very profound in what Jeff has done with ELO, and I don't deny that. But it's Jeff Lynne as opposed to the Beatles, so he has his own nuances, his own tendencies. But I think it was John Lennon said that ELO would be what the Beatles would sound like if they had decided to stay together. So Showdown on that record on the third day was featured in a Peyton Manning commercial. I think it was during the Super Bowl or maybe the NFL playoffs, the great quarterback, retired quarterback, Peyton Manning. And they played Showdown. He was peddling beer and he's walking into this bar, real slow motion. It's real cool and got a vibe to it. And he's, his beer versus their beer. So it was the perfect selection. And it's also featured. And I've recently been turned on to a TV program. And I'm not a TV guy. I don't watch television. Literally the only thing I'll watch on TV is my Premier League, Nottingham Forest. Come on, you Reds. Football/soccer holds an interest for me on TV. Other than that, I can't focus. I can't focus on the NFL. I can't listen to or watch Major League Baseball. Even my beloved hockey, I prefer to listen on the radio. And that's just something I can't focus for a long period of time. So for a television show to captivate me is unusual. And thank you to Michael. Thank you to my buddy Jeff. Thank you mostly to Callie Rose of God Bless Keg Publishing, who turned me on to Ted Lasso. And knowing what a football fan I am, soccer fan I am, they uh, promoted and Callie got me to watch all of Ted Lasso. And I'm telling you, I love this show. And it's not just about football. It's just an amazing, amazing show. I might do a podcast on Ted Lasso. Any rate, there's a pub scene. And I think it's when they're taking on Man City to uh, maybe get out of relegation, get back to the Premier League. But they go to May's Pub, which has these cast of characters. The three guys there are hysterical. And the song playing as they're tuning into the match is Showdown, Electric Light Orchestra. So some little trivia tidbits there. So that's an on mention. And my other on mention is Discovery, or as it was nicknamed, Disco Very by Richard Tandy. And this is definitely Jeff playing around, having some fun, letting his frizzy hair get more frizzy, and he's having a blast here with poking some fun at disco music. And I wouldn't think Paulie and his prog rock and his Yes and his ELP and all this Jethro Tull would be a fan of Disco Very, but I am. And it is a blast. It is such a great, fun listen. And two cuts stand out. One is really, really a Beatles-like song. It could have been on Yellow Submarine. It's The Diary of Horace Wimp. And it's a spoof song by Jeff, and he's talking about this wimpy guy and his adventures, and he tells a story. And it could have been, it could have been on Yellow Submarine. It's got vocal effects, and it's just a fun song. I love that cut. And it's got some gentle ballads. Midnight Blue is a real sappy ballad by Jeff, and it's a good song. And the other cut that really stands out, and I'm going to go back to another Ted Lasso reference for you trivia folks, is Last Train to London. And this thing is pure disco. And I love the song. It's just fantastic. And Callie Rose of God Bless the Keg Publishing, we work together a couple times a month, but mostly she works remote. So when we work together, we have some background music. We're both music fans, and the one day we're working together, it was Paulie's turn to pick the music. So Paulie put on ELO, and she picks her music, and she has great taste in music, and she asked my opinion, and this day was my day, so I just dialed up a little ELO, and I look over at Callie, and she's jumping around and wiggling her doodle and shaking her hips and her shoulders to Last Train to London. And she looks over at me because I'm laughing, and she says, Paulie, who is this? What is this song? It's fantastic. I said, it's Last Train to London. It's a kind of like a disco thing that Jeff Lynne put together on the album Discovery. And she's like, I love it. And that's the kind of song it is. But the Ted Lasso reference, that controversial episode where Coach Beard goes wandering off into the city after the devastating loss, and he goes drinking, and it's very controversial. He finds himself in these obscure alleyways and crazy situations. But I liked the episode. It showed Coach Beard for what he really was. The character portrayal is outstanding. But at one point, through some secret back door or something, he finds himself in a nightclub, and he's dancing around, and his girlfriend shows up, Jane. I think her name is Jane. And they're wiggling around, having a great time, drinking and dancing. And the song they're dancing to is Last Train to London by ELO. So there you go. Those are my on-mentioned. Took up a lot of time on that, but I thought it was worthwhile. So number 5 is El Dorado, the album El Dorado. And this is an uneven record by ELO. I love the cover art with the Wizard of Oz reference and the Wicked Witch and the sparks, and it's really cool. Cover art is part of the whole music experience, at least for me. And here, There's one cut that elevates the rest of the record, and that's why I put it at number 5. It's Can't Get It Out of My Head, which is maybe you could argue Jeff's greatest ballad. I think it is. You just can't get it out of your head when you hear it. And the word is that Jeff's dad was a classical music fan, and he said, you got talent, son, and you're doing good stuff, but you don't write a real cool melody yet. And he wrote this song and proved his dad wrong because, excuse me, it's just an amazing melody. Can't Get It Out of My Head elevates. I also like the instrumental melody, El Dorado instrumental melody. It's a bonus track, and it's really lovely. And it is a little uneven, but based just upon the magic of Can't Get It Out of My Head, I elevate it to that number 5 position. Number 4 is Face the Music. And Face the Music has a lot of memories for me, has a lot of memories associated with it. And it has great cover art too, with the old Sparky Face the Music, the electric chair on the front cover. And then I remember this in the vinyl. I'm looking at the CD version now because unfortunately I got rid of a lot of my vinyl, just didn't have room to store it, sold it off. But I remember this on the album cover, the vinyl cover. The inside is the right hand of the victim sitting in the electric chair, and he's gripping it, and he's got the leather straps. He has to face the music. Fantastic concept. But I say it has a lot of memories because this album, I think, is really where Jeff and the boys found the direction they wanted to go. And they started to move to the poppy sounds and the rock sounds and leave a little of the classical and the progressive in the rearview mirror and move on. But the first cut, Fire on High, has a lot of memories for me because I remember I'm an NHL guy, haven't played hockey, and I'm a Jersey guy. I remember when the Devils, the New Jersey Devils, moved from Colorado to the Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands. And I was fortunate enough to get a lot of free tickets through a connection I had, and we went to a lot of games. And they were a terrible hockey club the first couple of years. They were an awful team. But I think it was the second season, they would dim the lights in the arena and put on a little laser show with the lights flashing and popping, and they would come on, the Devils would come on the ice to Fire on High by Electric Light Orchestra. And it was very dramatic. They'd skate around because Fire on High is an instrumental with cool guitar licks, spooky background, backwards lyrics where the vocals are backwards, another throwback to the Beatles thing, and just a kind of a spooky vibe to it, but it's a great song. And the Devils would skate around, the crowd would go nuts. It was probably the highlight of the game because the Devils probably lost. But and Fire on High was also played at an amusement park ride in my travels. Southern Maine, I think it's Saco, Maine, and I can't remember the name of the amusement park. I want to say it was Funland, and I could be entirely wrong about that, but it was in Saco, Maine. I might be pronouncing that wrong with my New Jersey, but they had a ride called Astrosphere, and it was basically the scrambler that you see at all the amusement parks inside this tent thing. And you would get in there, and it's all laser shows and weird lights, and the music that would spin around as you tasted a hot dog you had like 17 years ago was Fire on High by ELO, and it was spooky and it was weird, and it was a great choice of music for this spooky ride inside this tent. So great songs on here. Like I said, this is where they start to find it. Evil Woman, Strange Magic is on here. Down Hometown, which I believe is one of the only songs that Jeff Lynne does not sing lead on. Kelly, the great bass player, the late great Kelly Grucut, sings lead. He had a great voice, operatic. But the other great cut is One Summer Dream, a wonderful slow ballad that just meanders along. It's a lovely, lovely song. So Face the Music is number 4. Number 3 is Out of the Blue. And I remember when I blogged and wrote my own thing, I got a lot of heat for picking that Out of the Blue is not number 1. And once more, back in the old vinyl days, it had the spaceship on the cover, on the cardboard cover, and the little spaceship guy pulled out of the big spaceship guy, and it was an insert in the cardboard. Very amazing marketing was going on back then. And Out of the Blue is the record that really catapulted ELO to stardom. The hits are all over this record. Sweet Talking Woman, Turn to Stone. It's Over is a deep track that is a lovely, lovely, one of my favorite ELO harmonies on there. I love Jungle. It has a great music video, by the way. And of course, the pinnacle is Mr. Blue Sky. And I'm always amazed at the number of folks that love ELO and were introduced to ELO through Mr. Blue Sky. Is there a happier song in the world? Probably not. Certainly not in rock and roll. And the word is Jeff was trying to write the music, and it was terrible weather, and he was holed up somewhere in Europe, I think Switzerland, and finally the sun came out and the blue sky, and he just had this epiphany and said, oh, Mr. Blue Sky, and he wrote this magical song. And I think a lot of young people were introduced with Baby Groot dancing during Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it was the second movie, and Baby Groot's dancing to Mr. Blue Sky. So the reason it is number 3 and not number 1 or not number 2 is Birmingham Blues. It's the one song of all of Jeff Lynne and ELO, even his Wilbury stuff. I do not like Birmingham Blues. It just grinds my gears, and I don't know why. It's just not my cup of tea. That's the only reason that Out of the Blue is rated where it is. And number 2 is 5 stars all around. It's a New World record. That's my number 2 selection. And this record is top to bottom 5 stars. Every cut. Tightrope, The Great Telephone Line, maybe his second best ballad, Jeff Lynne's second best ballad. Rock Area, where Jeff employs an opera singer to do the intro, and she blows the cue and starts the song too early. And Jeff loved it so much with his humor, he left it on there. Mission, a New World record. So Fine, wonderful ELO song. The Great Living Thing, Above the Clouds, and Do Ya resurfaces here. Number 8 cut on this record. This is a very short player. It doesn't last long. I think it's barely 30 minutes. But Do Ya was written during the Move days with Roy Wood. It was the A-side on a Move single, and the B-side was written by Roy. This is a different Do Ya, but it finally resurfaces, and it's got that amazing guitar part on it. But the great cut on here is Shangri-La. The closing is one of the best closing songs on any record, in my opinion, in all of music. It has a wonderful outro, and it's just the perfect selection to finish a New World record. 5 stars all around. There's not a bad cut on there. And that brings us to number 1. So I guess we should cheer, right, guys? Yeah, number 1 is Time. Time by ELO is my number 1 ELO selection. And Time is a concept album. And when I wrote my blog years ago, I loved Time. And I wrote this glowing review about Time. And I got berated by people who said it was just trash. It's electronic techno prog. I don't know what it is. It's a lot of electronics. Jeff is just doing this on his own. I think Richard Tandy, his best buddy, is on, the late, great Richard Tandy, is on this record doing some things, but it's mostly Jeff and his production. And he had a concept. He had an idea about a time traveler going ahead to the year 2095. And that's what the record is about. And start to finish, It's amazing. It just flows. The way Jeff wrote this music just flows. The single that was released is Hold On Tight. Hold On Tight to Your Dreams. I don't know why. Maybe the executives for the record label picked it, but Prologue goes into Twilight. Then there's Yours Truly, 2095, which is a spoof song. And Jeff's writing about the time traveler who has his computer, who's also a telephone, and she's a robot, and she's actually a sex robot. And that's hidden in the lyrics and the humor. Yours Truly, 2095. And then it goes to Ticket on the Moon, which is a slow kind of ballad, and then it picks up tempo. It's amazing, and it's techno. It's a lot of boops and beeps, and Jeff just lets it all hang out on this record. And just the tour featured a robot who comes out during Prologue, and his name was Fred. And Fred would malfunction quite often. One time he actually fell off the stage. And the tour didn't last long because it was expensive to produce, and the record didn't go over. It just didn't go over at the time. No pun intended. And I think there's a video you can find on the big video channel of Jeff Lynne in his home in LA, and he still has Fred the robot, and he tells the story of time. But the outstanding cut for me on this record is The Lights Go Down, number 9, The Lights Go Down. And it's a slow ballad that you can slow dance to. And I wrote a short story about it. It's called Breeze. And it's roughly based, I think this is around 1980. It's roughly based upon a gal I met on a train in New Jersey coming back from a hockey game where I got beat up and had to get some stitches. I met a gal on a train, and we ended up slow dancing that day. She was a huge ELO fan too. The Lights Go Down. And it's that kind of song. But if you can spring and you can find the CD that has the bonus tracks, Julie, Don't Live Here is one of the best ELO songs of all time. And it's about when the time traveler comes back to Earth, and he decides to come back, but the time is different. And his girlfriend, Julie, doesn't live in the house, and nothing looks the same because he's been, forward in time. And I guess it was left off by Jeff because it didn't fit the concept. But what an amazing song. It's so much better than the single they released. But that's the way it goes. I think some of these selections are done by executives and not by the artists. The little blurb said, Jeff Lynne's full-length tale of space-age mystery captivates from beginning to end. And I agree with that. Great cover art with a little drop of paint and the world. It's the old ELO logo back to the original 3 albums. Love it. Time. And I've been redeemed a little bit because when I wrote this, everybody ridiculed me. But now when I Google Time, and a lot of reviews are now appreciating it, a lot of folks agree with me, saying this is Jeff Lynne's masterpiece. This record just blows you away. And I guess as time goes on, things change. So there we go. Those are the top 5 Paulie selections for the best of the Electric Light Orchestra. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I've gone over a few minutes here, but I want to do a shout out to Callie Rose. Our co-host Callie was going to stop by, and we were going to do a completely different podcast on Detective Odell and my books. She's an Odell fan, and she's beta reading the final one, and she had a lot of questions. And Callie had a little family emergency, a health situation with her family member, and I really hope that I pray for the blessings that they're healed. So shout out to Callie. We'll get you on here another time, but hope all is well. But thanks for tuning in, folks. Hey, practice a little kindness. Be tolerant, be gentle, be kind to folks. Kindness is cheap. In fact, it's for free, and the rewards are great. So thanks for tuning in. I got to figure out how to get these characters out of here, and I wish you the best. I'm just a guy from Paterson, New Jersey. Check out ELO. I think it will enrich your musical life. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.